Welcome back to the GP Productions podcast. Okay, welcome back to the show. And today I've got a great guest on the show. It's Mr. Jason Johnson. Jason, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good. For people that might not know you, tell us a bit about yourself.
My name's Jason Johnson. They call me Pro Knife Thrower. I've been throwing knives since I was about 10 years old, and I guess you could say a bit unconventionally, where I've always kind of grown up on the farm and out in the middle of nowhere, and looked at knife throwing as just like, well, it's a spear without a handle. So if I was going to throw a spear, I'd throw it hard. Well, I'm going to throw a knife hard too. So I kind of developed a style to make the knife easily approachable to just looking at what I want to hit and throwing it. And basically what you're doing is reducing the rotations to the minimum amount you need, and just cut projecting, for lack of better words. So it became a thing where, I guess 5 or 6 years ago now, I kind of came out of the woodwork with a deal where you see everybody throwing cans now and pinning the can with a knife. And that was something I did years ago to train to hit a moving target. And, if I can hit around a can this close every time, well, that's great training. And pinning it is great, but that was never the intention of the, I didn't expect those results every time, and it becomes a trick shot. And then, so I did that about 20 feet back then, and it kind of brought me into this world of subtopian knife throwing culture, which has kind of developed and changed over the years now with the advent of different styles of throwing, and I guess the realization of what I do, and we've also take knives and make them throw without spinning too. So it's a lot of fun. But basically, I'm into it because it's a primal defense mechanism that I can access really easily. I mean, I'm a concealed carry holder in the United States. I have a pistol on me most of the time, and at the same time, having a knife as another tool in the toolbox is I always have a knife. Can't cut things with a gun. It gets real loud, and it takes a long time, so it's expensive. But having a blade and being able to use that in all manners that need to be made. I mean, I've only found one bulletproof vest that's ever stopped a knife throw. And I have one. It's called the Safe Life Defense, but it's a flexible rifle armor system. I mean, it's ceramic plated, made for it's really heavy duty. So
Is that the one on the YouTube page where you're doing a tutorial on it? It's kind of on a dummy.
Yeah. I did a couple tests on there. I did one for Safe Life Defense, which they make like casual clothing that's bulletproof, which is cool. I got a leather jacket from them floating around somewhere. But the other guys are more serious, dedicated vests. And I've tested a lot. I do a lot of classes on time to time when I'm not at home knife making. And a lot of them are with military types and police officer types, because I also teach close quarters disassembly. You've probably seen me on the show. We talked a bit before about Knife or Death, competition cutting show. Well, I grew up on the farm. Using a blade is just second nature to me. And then it's become to where, with a martial arts background that stems from logic and actual application, I will tell you there's no 50-step knife fighting program that's going to make you a juggernaut and like untouchable. It doesn't work that way. Real combat's two silverback gorillas colliding in battle. Well, that's why I try to use logic in that realm of mitigating the circumstances that you encounter on a daily basis. I mean, knife crime in the UK alone is horrendous.
It's crazy. Even here in Ireland now at the moment. Yeah, it's really bad.
And it's much different than a gun crime, because with a gun, you get shot, but you don't see it. It's not visible. Like, it's visible. The person's laying there, but there's not blood everywhere. Like a knife, is blood everywhere. The first sight of blood, people run, and it causes chaos. And so it's much more visually shocking in the society sense as well, as opposed to just a shooting. Somebody across the street might come out not knowing what's going on, think that my person might need medical help instead of been shot. So there's all kinds of things that go along with knife associated crime and usage that is a lot more devastating in the eyes of people that view it. You know what I mean? So at the same time, I've seen videos where, I mean, we talk about edge geometry, and I've been in classes where I'm teaching folks how to use a knife on a hog, and I mean, I can throw a knife and bury it to the handle in a hog skull, and where there's not a skull, it pulls the handle into the carcass. So I mean, imagine me throwing a saber tooth at you, and it pulling the handle inside of your body. So, but and that's a 1 pound knife, but it's razor sharp. So that's kind of. But I can show you videos where a guy takes a cleaver. It's a crime. I mean, like, this is the guy that was there next to him. You might have seen the video. It was a concealed carry holder. He had his side turned. Guy came up with you ever seen we used to call them cock splitters, but what they were is a big meat cleaver that has a long handle on it, big thick 3/8 inch blade, and it's made for splitting bones and like the coccyx of a cow, and just for bone separation, not meant to cut. The edge on that thing is like this. There's literally no edge on it. And the guy came up and hit her in the neck with it, and she got up and ran off and pulled in her neck. But I could show you a blade that I cut a hog in half with in one swipe, and it didn't even swing on the rope. So edge geometry means everything. And a lot of times it's like, well, how can you tell what that knife's going to do when it's just a flash? You can't. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like I show cops, like, well, this butter knife's not going to go through your vest, but all of a sudden it's sharp, and now it will. So never take something at what you think is value. Take it for what actually it is, and treat a knife like a close quarters gun, basically. I mean, you think about it. So it's but at the same time, I can show somebody how to throw a knife really effectively, and under 10 feet, there's no question. You can't move. It's I'm tracking you till the knife leaves my hand, and under 10 feet, it's just like throwing a baseball hard at somebody.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're proficient in throwing baseballs or throwing rocks as a kid, it's the same kind of deal. I mean, it's something already written inside people's little cavemans inside to throw something, and you're scared to pick something up and throw it to try to keep the bad stuff away. Well, that's already written, and people don't stop their hand and throw. Well, it's the same thing when I'm projecting a cut. If you've seen some of the videos where the crazy stuff that I do, we throw knives through some stuff, man, and it's pretty cool to see what physics can translate into what can actually be done. So is it a primal defense mechanism that's attainable? Yeah. Is it something that you have to train a bit to do? For sure, but it's not super complicated. It's really simple, and it's very devastating. If once you learn that, you realize, well, I can have a can of soup in any non-permissive environment in the world, and I can put you in the hospital with flail chest with just one throw. So have some soup, you know what I mean?
Yeah. When you touched on crime, obviously you've heard before about crime in the UK and Ireland. And when we hear stories from America, it seems to always be gun crime. Is knife crime a smaller issue in the States?
Well, I mean, I would tell you like this, knife crime in the States happens, but it doesn't fit the agenda for what people are talking about. Sorry, I'm grabbing some goodies if my face is too close. Yeah, it's not as heard of. But I would tell you that, like, reality has not really been heard of in a lot of cases either when they want to make something the agenda. You know what I mean? So you guys have knife crime there really bad, but I would probably contest. And if I looked up the numbers or asked some buddies, they might be able to tell me what the numbers are in blunt instrument crime. Baseball bats, crowbars, chains, pipes, things like that. Probably is there or above knife crime in everywhere, just because it's easily to access. You know, I mean, I can have a tire iron in the back of my car. Yeah. And it's totally legal. You know what I mean? Where if I have like a Crusader Bowie in the back of my car, it's probably not quite as legal, you know?
Yeah. So where you live in America, can you carry any of those blades around with you in public?
Oh, yeah. So the rule in most states, except for free ones, is 3.5 inches inside of the pocket can be concealed. If it's not concealed, it must be visible from 3 sides. Now, a lot of people don't know that because the police can lie to you to tell you whatever they want to get you to incriminate yourself. But if it's on a pocket with a pocket clip, you've seen knives with pocket clips, and it's visible from 3 sides, not concealed, So I carry a Cold Steel Espada XL in my right pocket because it's the only knife that really folds. It has a wave on it, so it's a 7-inch blade. But I look at that as like if I get stabbed in the back and I have to pull something out for close quarters, I want it to cut off whatever just stabbed me. So, saber tooth, baby tooth, stuff like that. I'm always going to have a more formidable weapon than my enemy. And that is here as well, because awareness is your first, when I train guys, I talk about circumstance, situation, intention, and ability. Those things should rattle through your brain every time you come into walk down the street. What is the circumstance I'm in? What is the situation going on around me? What is the intention of the person they have and the ability to carry it out? So, and those things go back to 16th century martial science with Miyamoto Musashi. So it's the same kind of, like you heard one of our famous military generals say, and he's a great quote, when I walk into a room, I have a plan to kill every single person in that room. You know what I mean? So at the same time, it's just an inward reflection of awareness of, and it sums up in a really roguish, manly way. Well, keep awareness up, know what's going on around you, have the ability to protect yourself and others if needed. So, but yeah.
So are you would you be like that all the time? Would you always be kind of looking at your surroundings and being kind of not on edge, but just
not on edge? I mean, at the same time, it's like, well, if I'm cooking in a kitchen, or let's say I'm making knives, you were just down there when I was, oh crap, I got to pull a knife out of the oven. Those are 1,500 degrees. If I drop that on the ground, well, would I be on edge if I had a fire extinguisher? And would I be on edge if I knew that was there? Maybe not so much. I can put it out, whatever. Well, it's the same thing if your awareness is up. It's the same thing if you have the capability to defend yourself and others. I mean, because of the way I look at it, man, if you're a free American citizen and you have the ability to defend yourself and a third party, you should. Because the first responders come after the call is made. So, you are your first responder. I mean, I carry a 2011 Staccato on a daily basis. This is my This is my carry pistol. So, it goes with me everywhere. And should I need it, hopefully God never happens that, but it's there. I have medical gear in my truck. I have, whatever. So I was laughing at like they had those guys that were shut down in Colorado. They had that whole highway shut down for like a winter storm or something happened. And I'm like, it's wintertime. What's going on? So everyone's stranded there wondering if the state was going to come help them. I'm like, your car's running. There's gas in it. Frolic into the woods with your axe, cut down tree branches off dead trees that are hanging because they'll be dry even in the wintertime. Build yourself a fire. If you get cold, come back to your car, warm up for a little bit, have other people help you. Before you know it, you'll have a little village and you can have 4 fires built all around you and you can stand in the middle and just be warm instead of freezing your asses off, sitting there doing nothing, waiting for someone to come save you. So that mentality is where I live,
Yeah. Can I just talk to you about when I was researching, obviously, and we do have a lot of pro wrestling guests on this podcast.
Yeah, I saw you guys have some really cool folks on.
Yeah, and I seen that you were on Knife or Death with Bill Goldberg. What was that experience like, and how did you find Bill?
Bill's a great guy, man. He if you watch the show, I think the funniest thing to me about the show was that Bill couldn't keep up with me, and he's hilarious to listen to. He's a family man. He's got kids, and all that stuff. We've become pretty good friends, and Bill's just a hoot to be around. He's all around genuine guy, super big talker, real big presence. Every time we come into the room, he's he likes to play practical jokes and sneak around and play around with people and all. He's a great guy, man. Just totally super genuine dude. Like I was telling you before, he come up behind me at like I think Blade show or something and just bear hugged me like this and picked me up, and I had a blade in my hand and I was like, oh hey Bill, like he was like, oh God, I didn't even see that, and I was like, it's okay, but it was fun. And I don't know, he's just cool as hell, man. That show Knife or Death was really interesting. They told me a 14-inch blade maximum, which is why I have a 14-inch bladed kukri. And then when I got to the show, everybody had swords, and I was like, why swords? And they're like, shit changed. And I was like, okay, nothing beats a kukri, as you saw. The proper made kukri is great, but I could make that same kukri shape and it would suck because the edge geometry means so much, So but yeah, it was a great time. I'll never get the smell of dead fish out of my nose. And there was some surprises there. If you noticed, the first time I went through that stupid black hanging bucket,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's a bucket. Whap! And there was 3/4 gravel in that bucket, 3/4 inch gravel. And I was just like, oh. And they told me verbally over the phone, nothing ferric that would destroy or damage your blade. I was like, great.
Okay.
Wow.
So you
Rocks
guys
come
had no
flying up.
idea, like
Oh
you
no,
guys.
nobody had any idea that rocks were going to be in the bucket. So they got me once, but they let us kind of fix our blades in between. Like if it was sharp,
Okay.
you could resharpen your blade. Because I mean, you're cutting sheet metal and rocks. That's astronomically stupid for anybody that knows anything about wanting to preserve the edge of their knife.
Mhm.
And so they let us kind of touch them up in between. We had like 5 minutes we could do on them. I'm like, wow, done, whatever. My kukri was pretty stout because it's an apple seed edge, instead of just a flat grind, it had a bit of an apple seed to it. So I could just slack belt it pretty quick. And went back on, and they had given us, time to sharpen our blades. And the second time I hit that bucket, I was like, you bastards aren't going to get me this time. So I'm just going to cut the very bottom layer off of the bucket, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm a carpenter. I've been a carpenter all my life. I know exactly how high to aim on the side of a bucket to cut the very bottom layer off and not damage my blade on the rocks that are probably going to be in it. Who knows? It might be nails or something else in this thing.
Yeah.
So I went slice and it just dropped off and nothing happened. And I'm like, what? And you hear me on the show go, what the because I just perfect slice. Yeah, 2-layer bucket. It was a hollow walled bucket. There was like one inside another. And it's because they probably figured somebody was going to come up there and slice the bottom of it off. Well, it's exactly what I did. So I looked at it for a second, then I kept going and cut it up. It was more rocks. I was like, whatever, man. At that point, it was just put your blade through whatever they put in your way and keep going. So, but it was a blast, man. I had a lot of fun there. Unfortunately, the next season it aired, they kind of got a bunch of people from Mom's Basement. It didn't seem to work out so well. So
Yeah, they done. I think was it 3 seasons, and then that was it, wasn't it?
yeah, I think season 2 killed it. I was talking to one of the producers, and just whoever was picking the talent didn't do a good job. You know what I mean? So
Were they? I didn't see season 2, but were they trying to make it more of a reality based, like every
I
other TV
guess,
show?
and then the yeah, I guess, and then the people that were on it were just like, no offense to any of those people if you're watching, but
Yeah.
I'm a serious blade user. There were people on there that were theatrical people and
Yeah.
cut
I
hair
didn't.
their whole life,
Yeah. I
So
didn't see it, but I'm not surprised.
yeah, I didn't watch it. I watched one episode and I was just like, oh Lord. So I'm done with that. But yeah, man, it's we've been working on all that stuff, and then since then, I mean, the natural progression of things was to make knives, and this is a saber tooth, a 1095 version. It's backwards in my screen, but a 1095 version of a saber tooth that I made, and this is that flat ground Tonto point. It's kind of an American Tonto, but yeah, that's a red and black one. We make them in other colors as well, and then I make a smaller version of it too with a 4-inch blade. So,
and you sell all these through your website as well, don't you?
yeah, pronifethrower.com is my website. I've got a tomahawk that's out, the Primal Habitat utility cutting tool. And I will say, you guys can probably get it in Ireland because it's actually a bushcrafting tool.
They probably seize it in Ireland coming in at customs.
You think they would? Can you go to the store and buy an axe or a knife anywhere?
Well, you can buy you can buy an axe, you can still buy knives and axes, but I've just seen on some of the shows on TV when people try to bring swords into this country and stuff like that, they take
Even
them
through
off
the
them
mail.
in the airport. I don't know through the mail, but I've seen a few of these airport shows and they just take them off them in Ireland anyway, for sure.
I'm a pretty good historian, and I would tell you that that's not your culture to allow that to happen.
Yes. I'd say it can be hidden in the mail somehow if people did.
Yeah, we'll just send it as a camping tool because that's what it is. I mean, a knife is a tool. How are you going to cut your meat? But I make the Primal, which is great because it has I calculate slope of a knife off of decimal points instead of angles. So this blade's a 1/4 inch at the spine, but the slope of it is backwards. The slope of it is a 180 thick slope. So if I were to measure an inch off this blade edge, it would be 0.180 thick. So that's how I calculate that slope angle that I'm actually making the knife with. So with the tomahawks, they're a 200 slope. Now this is a 185, and that 1/4 inch thick spread that grind across 2.5 inches almost of steel. So you can imagine a 200 slope is just slightly under that, which allows it to pass through things really easily. So when you're using that tomahawk, it cuts and chops better than anything in its realm of. I have one somewhere that's in progress. I could probably show you.
Yeah.
Those are on the website right now. I'm kind of out of everything else because supply chain. I don't know about you guys.
Is it going crazy over there because of COVID and all that stuff? And is everything?
Yeah, I mean,
all the prices going up and stuff like that. Yeah.
At this point, I don't even think it's COVID related. You know what I mean? I think it's just control related.
Yeah, everything was blamed on COVID. Like the cost of living here has gone through the roof. Like,
but I remember in 1980 something when what's his bucket said that you could get the AIDS by standing by somebody with it, and that was the same dude that created it. So I mean, hey, whatever. Here's one I got. This is just got done normalizing. So this is a primal habitat utility cutting tool, and that just got done normalizing in the oven to be ready for heat treatment. So. We turned all the martensite to all the austenite to perlite, and then we'll turn that to martensite. They'll be pretty bitchy. I don't have any there, but I know they're on my website. But I would say, there's nothing that's going to outperform those tomahawks in the bushcraft world, just because I made them around bushcrafting. I was a carpenter my whole life. That's why they don't have a beard, so they don't get caught in shit when you, especially plunge it into organics. I can plunge it in the forehead of a hog and pull it right back out, like it just slips right out. So it's a great tomahawk. Plus that tip has a 350 slope on it, so that means it's a lot steeper of a grind. And what that does is allows it to be useful for breaking the surface tension of something I'm chopping into, like stabbing it with a knife.
Yeah.
And then it makes it not slip off my cut. Like if I'm cutting wood and I have that hook, on the edge, it allows it to kind of catch, but it still cuts well. So you don't slip off your cuts, and it's great for making notches and doing fine work and stuff. But man, those things are cool. You flip around backwards and throw them into a tree and climb up it. So it's dope, man. I just wanted something that worked really well with the bushcrafting, because I do that a lot. I like old school stuff like that, and so away we go. But I got some new stuff coming into the market too. Tops Knives is going to make an Archangel Bowie, and I'll make some of those too. I don't have any here, but it's basically a 21-inch ring guard Bowie. Would probably be
serious business.
Yeah, I mean, you ever heard the story of David Bowie? Yeah, you heard about that guy? He's a frontiersman or whatever. Well, that knife he had was a Bowie knife, but the Bowie knife didn't get its start as a knife. It looked like this. It was a broken sax sword, and they reshaped it down to make something usable. Well, that's how Bowies came to be. Was they were broken swords, and they were cut down blades. And this Bowie here happens to be within a 1/4 inch of David Bowie's broken sax in the museum. So pretty cool, proper Bowie size. So I mean, it's kind of, certain things are kind of written into our structure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's fun to see those things transcend lines of history and culture and all that stuff. So
can you talk to me about the knife community, say the pro knife community, and tournaments and different things like that? How big is this community and how big is this world? Because it's not something that I'm overly familiar with myself. That's why I'm curious to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So that was a question to me when I first started too, because I've been throwing knives my whole life and never really knew anybody else did it. Taught my own way of throwing based upon power, accuracy, and deliverability. Well, then I come out of the woodwork and there's this whole knife throwing community, and I was like, great. And they're like, yeah, you need to come to a competition. Here's the distances, all this stuff. It's like kind of a setup competition. I was like, cool. What's it based on? And they're like, accuracy. And I'm like, okay. So to me, that's not everything. You know what I mean? That's not accuracy is great, but a knife throw is like a hand grenade. So when I'm throwing a knife that weighs over a pound or just at a pound, and I hit you with it, I want the impact to be. So I've always looked at mine as a combative application. Well, they have knife throwing, but it's target based, like circus knife throwing.
Yeah.
And so I'm all ready to go to the competition in Austin, Texas, and then a guy tells me, no, you got to flip these knives a certain amount of times by every line. It's another spin, and I'm like, Wait, you guys make your knife spin 3 revolutions in 23 feet or 9 meter? How many? It'd be 9 meters, right? Yeah, 9 meters.
Yeah.
I think it's 23 feet. And I'm like, I can't even make my knife spin more than once in that distance. And so I had to learn basically how to throw rotationally, which I use this like modified pinch grip, and I let my knife flip. And so your first distance is one spin, so it spins once, and the second distance is a flip and a half. So you're holding it by the blade, so they won't let you have sharp knives, which is fine, whatever. And so it became a whole nother style, a whole nother thing, and I would equate it to darts. And I said, screw this, I'm going to go learn from the best person in the world at this, which is a guy over in UK by the name of John Taylor. And then another guy here in the United States named Pat Minter. And so I decided to seek those 2 guys out, and they kind of showed me the way, like Yoda, of this style of knife throwing, because to me, it's completely, absolutely horseshit, but it's fun, right? It's fun because it's so accurate. I mean, that's the only thing that made it so fun for me, was it's so accurate. I can sit there and hit. I have a YouTube video where I hit 5 beer bottle caps to one knife from 10 feet in 45 seconds. So it's very accurate when you do it in a reproducible manner. And it's the same accuracy up close as it is far back, which makes it so fun, because it's the same essence that I'm picking up a piece of candy and throwing it in your mouth. That feel of, hey, you know, and you're placing the weight like darts. And so that's fun, because you can take a knife and it doesn't matter what mark you're at, 2.5 spin, 2 spin, 3 spin, whatever. And you're just throwing it like an object. So I don't think of it as flips anymore, because I design knives to flip the same at every distance, every meter. It goes by meters. I think it starts at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 meters. Yeah, and then 9 meters it goes back to in tomahawks. But 7 meters is 23 feet. So yeah, it becomes really fun because it's very accurate. You don't have to throw hard. It's super relaxed. It's like drinking beer, knife throwing, you know? And but I learned that method of, I mean, dude, me and Pat Minter sat there hitting beer bottle cap after beer bottle cap. I'll tell you a story. My buddy Brandon Danger Dillon, he and I went to a knife throwing competition in Pennsylvania. Have you ever heard of the game Silent Hill?
Yeah.
Seen the movie Silent Hill? That is based off a town in Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's a real town. And the mines that were there started on fire, and they started on fire below the ground, and it burned. And nobody actually really died in the real fires, but it kind of set the stage for this whole story. And so it's a condemned town. The government owns it. There's actually fires still burning to this day underground. It's a really eerie place to visit. Well, there's like 4 people that still live in the town. The church from the movie is the church from Silent Hill. It's completely creepy and really cool. So we went there and we like messed around, threw some knives in Silent Hill, let it be like a thing. We go back to his place, we catch a second wind because we've been driving for like 12 hours. Get back to his place, have a few beers, and start throwing knives at beer bottle caps. We hit 137 beer bottle caps in 3 hours from just throwing knives. So, you know, it's fun. It's that's the only thing I think that keeps me doing the competition. I call it rotational, but competition style, which, you know, you can teach pretty much anybody to do. And it has a lot in common with the way that I throw already, because their first distance, which is 10 feet, or is it 3 meters? Yeah, 3 meters is 10 feet. They have, like, if I were to throw a knife at 10 foot, I would have a combative grip, right? Meaning if I have awareness, because at 10 feet you have awareness. If I'm going to make a throw 10 feet away, I see the guy coming. He's running at me with a baseball bat or coming at me with whatever. I'm going to pull my knife like this in case he closes the gap so I can cut him apart. At the same time, if I project that throw forward in just a regular throw, it's that same grip. It's not, it doesn't change. So I'm just projecting that cut forward one rotation into, you know, what I call my oh shit distance is 10 foot or less. Anything closer than 10 foot, it doesn't spin at all. So if he closes that gap, I just put my thumb on the spine. And if you've seen that 100 Deadly Skills book by Clint Emerson, there's QR codes in the book that take you to videos, but that closer than 10 foot distance. So see if I can do this, it's backwards in my screen. So if I were to throw, my knife would just slide out of my hand like that as I'm cutting. So then it would just travel straight. So that cut never changes. It always stays a cut. And that is a really, that 10 foot gap is there's like a little paradox there where my style and that style go together. So that one distance, one rotation. So I just lazily lob it onto the target like you're throwing clothes in the hamper, and you'll be fucking accurate, man. And you can use that same feeling all the way back to 23 feet and still be hitting a 4-inch bullseye, just ding, 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 and it's cool. So, but that's a huge difference in the style. So,
yeah. And are you doing a lot of training yourself now? Are you training people to throw knives these days?
Yeah, we did the Protector Symposium recently. We did another event in Missouri. I got a bunch of stuff going on this year, but just been slow to get schedule started because, man, supply chains are just crap right now. So it's been kind of slow. I've just been not filling a schedule. I've got a lot of things I need to be doing, but I haven't put it in a schedule yet because I'm trying to get knives made and shit in stock and all that other stuff because it's just been tough. But yeah, we do a lot of training with in different groups. I mean, I'm not going to train a group of kids the same way I'm going to train a group of SF guys. At the same time, most of the time, the things that guys at higher level are learning, like I'm not going to teach a cop defensive knife throwing. I mean, if he wants to learn it after the end, that's great. But I'm going to teach him how to basically survive having his weapon fall out of battery, somebody over the top of him taking his life force away from him. The only time he's actually able to use a knife for self-defense, which is when it's last resort. So, we'll teach him what to cut, where to cut, how to cut apart stuff so he doesn't just do this. Or what a lot of guys do is they have a knife in their hand and they forget because it's so light and they just resort to punching or palm striking or whatever and they forget they even have it. So, teaching people how to use the blade as a zipper and what to cut apart and how to dig, basically. I mean, I'm not going to, if I pull a blade out close quarters, it's going to be either like this with the blade towards me, blade edge towards me, or like this with the blade edge away from me, to cut away from me with awareness, and to pull into me if it's elbow to elbow, because I'm just going to grab you up and you know what I mean? I'll be pulling. I'll be opening. Once I stab in, I'm going to cut it open. You know what I mean? So knives without choils. A knife with a choil is a tool. A knife without a choil can be used in a self-defense manner. You know what I'm talking about? Those little sharpening choils?
Yeah, yeah.
And it gives the company or the maker a place to stop the sharpening, which is great, but it gets caught in every piece of skin, every filament of hair, every bit of clothing and fabric that you can think of, and it will stop your cut. It's super annoying. So I prefer them without choils. I'd rather have them just stop cutting, pull out a little bit, and keep going. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's the tool that you use. I mean, dude, I was a carpenter all my life. I can throw a hammer and take you onto the ground. You know what I mean? So it just depends on, like I said, I could have a 3/4 inch wrench in my back pocket too. So, but the ability to use something thrown as a primal defense mechanism. Imagine if I had a 5160 ball bearing in my pocket like this.
Yeah.
Oh, I can have that. It's a machine part, And so if somebody's closing the gap trying to hit you with the knife, try to get the hell out of there. But if you don't have no way to get out of there, well, maybe consider hitting him with something really hard before he can cut you. So maybe have two. Got a couple balls. You want one? And I'm just saying, it sounds funny, but dude, I mean, I remember, come on, like you've seen the movie It with Stephen King. They throw rocks at the bully. Everybody's thrown a rock or a projected weapon. So that's just something to consider. And I mean, you seen that baseball pitch where it hit that bird and the bird it turned into feather dust. It was fantastic.
Didn't see that.
Oh yeah, there was a MLB, just a once in a million opportunity where the guy threw the pitch, probably 87-mile-an-hour fastball, and a bird flew right in front of it and hit it. Exploded the bird. So yeah,
I shouldn't be laughing, but when was that?
Oh God, in the 90s.
Okay, right. Yeah.
So it's totally laughable. Like it's been long enough. The bird had, next of kin. It was fun. But yeah, man, it's a thing to learn. Is like, dude, at the same time, I've seen people have given me stuff off cartel members from south of the border that was just a piece of 1/4 inch or 3/8 rebar that was bent over on the top, flattened out from my thumb and turned into a spike. And that spike barely stick out past my palm because I can hit you with it and rip, hit you with it and rip and just tear you apart. So at the same time, it's it's about the amount of damage. You can see stuff where, I train guys a lot where, look, you can see, here's this video of a guy getting stabbed 25 times, and why isn't he dying? What's going on? Explain to me the process. What is happening with this guy's brain? What is going on with the fact that he's still alive? And once you understand those things and you realize there's a big difference between a cut that disables and a cut that injures. So we have to discern those things and actually what is going on. So if you're able to use a knife or have to use a knife for real self-defense and be able to actually do it, what to do, because you can leak for a long time. At the same time, I can make one stab in one special spot and you go down pretty quickly. It's all about what you're hitting. It's all about the insides. It's like if your oil filter's getting bad, well, that's great. It can get bad for a while. It'll still keep running. I've seen oil come out of engines that were just sludge and still running. But if I kick a hole in the radiator and you overheat, well, that's going to take just a short time, real short time. So same time I can cut a fuel line and you're done, So it's like that. And, It really makes a difference. If I stab in, I'm cutting out, and that's for self-defensive mechanisms. And we have to get away from like the old school method because it's, it just doesn't work. It doesn't go back to the 16th century, go back to the 17th century. How did we use blades on a battlefield? What were we doing? Cutting people down. So, it was said in the 16th century, I reserve my blade for stabbing when it's too dull to cut. So stabbing the face was a technique. And stabbing the face of a blade with a blade that was too dull to cut because it hit too much armor, it hit too much other blades, steel, it just won't cut anymore. Stab them in the face because it's unprotected. Usually you can hit somewhere here. If you hit anywhere in these cavities, there's voids there that your blade will easily travel into. The eye cavities, the nose, nasal cavities got a slit, but basically you got a T shape here that's easy to put things in. And they all guide to the back of the brain. So it's a bloody science, man, but at the same time, it's something we've all come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all there before. So,
yeah. Jason, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, man. It was totally different from the podcasts I normally have, but it was very, very interesting.
Butterbean on there. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. He's a cool guy. So cool.
Yeah, I've just been lucky enough to find some interested people, mostly from the States, man, because I think when I'm talking to guys in the States, the fact that I'm from Ireland, I think is an advantage for me for getting an email back.
Yeah, that's funny. That's people have a fascination with accents. I've been known to talk a bit Irish myself, whatever. Or Australian or English or whatever. People, I was a telemarketer when I was 17. If you want somebody to talk to you, talk to them in an Australian or an English accent or something like that. People listen to you.
Yeah.
An old boss told me that. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because it's not normal, so it's not what they're used to. So if you were to go to France and you heard some beautiful woman talking in a French English, you'd be like, oh, would you listen to that? But yeah, man, it's interesting, human culture. But we're all the same. We all want freedom. We all want civil liberties and rights, and to be able to have free market. I mean, shoot, I can hardly post a video of knife throwing on the internet anymore without being shut down. So it's we're all in the same.
It's pretty sensitive, isn't it? Even YouTube is very sensitive.
Yeah, man. It's just
I've had videos taken down.
Really?
For people talking about smoking weed, for fuck's sake.
Oh, man. Well, I would say this is like, as long as the citizens of the world can remember that we're citizens of the world and they're the communist rulers that are that we're separate. We love y'all. You know what I mean? And so like the citizens of Russia, I'm not mad at them. I'm not mad at any of the, so as long as we keep it separated and realize that, like, hey, even in World War II, the Germans and the American troops were singing Christmas songs together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That happened. So, we're all the same.
Yeah. And if people want to look at your stuff, Jason, can you give your website a shout out there just so people know? And I'll put it underneath this video as well.
Well, I appreciate it. ProKnifeThrower.com is my website. You can find me pretty much anywhere. Instagram is on Pro Knife Thrower, as long as they let me stay. And I'm kind of getting censored here and there, but we'll still be plugging away. And I got some training classes and stuff going on. We got 100 Deadly Skills, the book out there, which with Clint Emerson, which is a great book. if you want to do tutorials on stuff, I mean, what I train folks to do, you can throw anything with the point. So check out the 100 Deadly Skills book, as well as my website. New products coming out. You guys should probably be able to order. Right now, there's still primals available, but yeah, be careful. My blades are sharp. So as always, watch your fingers.
Jason, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.